As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster.
There's no crying in baseball!
I ate his liver with some fava beans. A nice kid.
That was totally wicked!
If I can change, and you can change, everybody can change!
And welcome to another episode of Your Next Favorite Movie. I'm your host, Josh G. And we're back with my monthly co-host. Please welcome Chad back to the show.
What's up?
And of course, his brother Chris is here.
I don't recall.
Oh, you don't recall being here? Well, you're here now. Oh, all the stuff you guys missed in the preamble before we actually start recording.
I know, right? It's for the bloopers.
All right, so let's get it out of the way. Chris once again has won the poll, so
For
take
like
your bow.
Fourth time, maybe?
Four-time champion.
Four-time champion.
Chris is like, for the fourth time, but who's counting?
Who's counting? I know.
He's so humble.
And then what won this time, Josh?
Yep, we're going back to 1982. We're going to be talking about Mommie Dearest.
Oh, wait a minute, guys. Let's get in the time machine and get back to 1982. So hang on to your chairs, put on your seatbelts on. Let's go. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Okay, we landed in 1982. Mommie Dearest is now on the marquee. Starring Faye Dunaway.
Starring Faye Dunaway, that is right. Directed by Frank Perry.
No more hangers! This is my daughter, Christina.
Hello, everybody.
Tina! Bring me the axe!
Mommy, please!
No wire hangers ever!
Mommie Dearest.
Floor's not clean! Look at it! Why did you adopt me?
This movie currently has a Rotten Tomato critic score of 49%, so definitely not good. And the
Well,
audience,
not good critically, but, you know,
That
Cult-
was from
but-
its time.
cult favorite.
and the
Well,
audience
what's the
score
audience
jumps.
score?
Yeah, the audience score jumps up to 72%. So that is
See?
much
Big
That
better.
means there's 28% of people out there that don't like the movie. Well, F them.
Exactly. They're missing out.
Yeah, because I mean, really, all you to be positive on Rotten Tomatoes, it just needs to be a positive score. It's not like you're giving it 10s.
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
So I don't.
That's
know
because those
how.
people consider themselves
And by the way, too, guys,
real movie watchers.
happy belated Mother's Day to everyone, because this is our Mother's Day episode, and this is what gave us our theme.
That is correct.
So
that is
why not
correct.
go with the biggest Mother's Day
of them all?
movie we can go? Yeah.
I mean, wasn't that one of the taglines for the movie after it came out? The biggest mother of
True.
them all. So
Yeah.
there you go.
Tina, bring the axe.
Bring the axe.
All right, so let's get into this. The budget of this is $10 million. How much you think this made?
Less than that. I'm
Wow,
going to
that's a
say.
fast answer, Chris. I don't know.
See, surprisingly, as much as they talk about this being the huge failure it was, what I found was it actually did make $19 million, which is almost double what it
Damn.
cost.
That was
which
what
back
I thought it was
then-
maybe $20 million.
It would have been considered a successful movie.
Yeah. So, but as we talked about those low critic score, we also know that this is probably one of the highest rated movies that won Worst Picture at the Razzies, because it did win that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And it was nominated for, I think, 4 other Razzies. A bunch of them being acting, of course, for Joan Crawford and I guess Diana Scarlett as Christina. Probably older Christina versus the
it is
little
older.
girl, I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know
Older
that. I
Christina.
just don't know which one got nominated for what.
Oh, okay, got maybe supporting. Who knows?
Yeah.
It's probably the adult Christina. I thought young Christina did really well in this.
We'll get into that. And see. I mean, she does fine. It's just, we'll get into it.
Fight.
Josh has some opinions.
No, it's not that. I just have some issues with the ages and all that. We'll get in there.
Oh, I see.
But I am going to kick it off because I'm going to kick it off with this opening scene because we see that the clock says it's 4 a.m. And not only is she waking up at 4 a.m., she's literally got a gloved hand. Like, who the fuck sleeps with gloves? Not me. I would be a sweaty mess if I had to sleep with gloves.
She's got to keep her hands moisturized. She can't have
liver spots.
And she can't have dry farm hands.
There's a lot of people who will do that. It's just part of the beauty routine.
Like, it reminded me of Meryl Streep in Death Becomes Her when she woke up.
Yeah.
And the maid comes in the morning. She's got like the thing wrapped around her face to keep the double chin together.
She had that on
the
too.
eye thing. She's got the gloves on. Rose, I think I need to hear it every morning.
Why, madam, you look younger every day.
And you're right, Chad. She woke up. Her head was wrapped as well. Mm-hmm. So get up and pour a shit ton of ice into a bowl. Not ice,
which apparently was a real thing that Joan Crawford did in real life.
Right.
She would pour. I don't know what she poured in there. Chris said it was alcohol.
I thought it was alcohol.
That she poured in the ice. I don't know if it was water or what, but she poured something in there, and like she would do her routine. And like I remember reading where Joan had a thing particularly about her elbows. Like she would scrub and moisturize the shit out of her elbows.
Well, they said that she would. Well, for one, she'd use like hot water, and it's almost like scalding hot water.
Yeah.
And she had this thing where she scrubbed herself almost to the bone, and it's just part of her routine. And I think it was just to, for one, clear those pores, get them open, whatever she had to do
for sure. I think.
And it was just part of her routine every morning.
Yeah.
Well, especially when she had a project,
Right, and you see her doing that, scrubbing the arms and face very hard and using scalding hot water and then just burying her face into that bowl of ice. And I'm just like, oh.
Yep.
Oh, no thank
Which
you.
apparently is actually really good for the skin because I remember it's kind of like cryotherapy, I suppose. I remember reading that, there's a thing people do where like they'll enjoy, dipping into a hot tub or a hot spring and then they'll jump out and go running into the snow and like, go into like extreme cold temperatures. Apparently it's really good for the skin. I don't know. I've never done this before. It sounds like fun though.
Right.
But we know the closest I've done is getting out of a hot tub and jumping into the pool. That'd be the closest I've done.
Yeah.
Really the whole point we know is that she's trying to keep her skin nice.
She's trying to look
and clean.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing too, because like part of the whole crux of this movie is that she's an aging star.
Yeah.
Right.
And it really sets up right from the beginning. It sets up a lot of things for you. It sets up that she's obsessed with her vanity.
Mm-hmm.
She's a control freak because everything has to be done in a certain way.
It's neat, organized, and clean.
It has to be organized, clean. And she's also, I think, very structured.
Yes.
In her
disciplined.
life.
Very
disciplined.
structured.
Yeah, she's very disciplined. I think that's the better word. So it just kind of shows you what kind of person she is, like right from the get-go, and we don't even see her face at this point,
right?
Which I think is pretty interesting. Like you don't see her face through this whole opening,
but you see also like how clean really the rooms that we do get to see is of her house. Everything is very
they're like clinical. They're like static.
Yeah,
like it's.
It's
there's not a wrinkle in the bedding. There's it looks like her home looks like a museum. It looks like a show place, not a home.
And she's had to do, that's the thing. She's had to do that her whole career. Part of that was for her career in order to keep up the appearances, not just for the fans, because she loved her fans. That's one thing you will learn about is that she was always generous to her fans.
Yeah.
But part of it was also to appear for the studios and for the executives, for the managers, and so forth.
There's that one scene where she was jogging and her maid was driving beside her. And her maid says, "Oh, if they only knew how much you sacrificed," meaning like she puts herself through hell.
Yeah, she does,
to keep up appearances and everything. Yeah.
Well, that's one of the things we'll talk about in this movie too that I thought was really, because it does bring up a lot of issues, like a woman in
That a woman
Hollywood,
faced in
and
Hollywood,
especially
and still
also
faced
an
today.
aging and also an aging actress.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just it's not just the camp. You do see some of those serious things like that. Yeah,
that's true. And then we get her finishing up the rest of her routine, getting out before lighting, and she gets to work. She's on the set, and of course she has to go to the makeup trailer. And I just thought it was cool because a parallel that Faye Dunaway also had a 4 a.m. wake up call and had to spend 3 hours getting her hair and makeup done to look like Joan Crawford every day.
Wow.
So,
well, I thought it was really cool because we saw that scene too where she got into her car and she has a tray, like a little desk tray in the back of the car, and what she's doing, she's looking through her script. She even has like the little ribbon saved on the page for where she left off at, so that she can continue reading more. And then she's signing autographs, which we see throughout the movie. She's always signing autographs. And I told Cheshire, I was like, I wonder if Faye Dunaway really did the signature and if she practiced it to look like
because that signature kind of does look like Joan Crawford's actual signature. So it makes me wonder if she like practiced to try to.
Because she's writing the signature all the time in the movie, and the way she has like that certain way, that certain penmanship of how she signs it, just right then and there.
Yeah, the amount of money Joan Crawford would have made at conventions if she lived in this day and age. Oh my goodness.
Her and Betty Davis.
Yeah. I mean, I would certainly pay for their autographs.
I didn't know Betty Davis was the same towards her fans as Joan, because you see that is one thing she does care about, is she cares about her fans.
That's true. Well, Betty was definitely she was definitely a different personality too. Like she was like that consummate actress of sorts, who she didn't really care what she looked like in terms of what she had to do for the role. She didn't care, like, if the role meant that she had to look ugly for the role, that's what she was going to do. So she didn't mind transformation, whereas Joan Crawford she felt like she had a standard of a certain appearance. Yeah. So like when Joan Crawford first started in movies, she didn't look like the Joan Crawford we know her mostly as. Yeah. It wasn't until a little bit later that she had her like a signature style, which was like the signature eyebrows and also the shoulder pads. She became kind of like the first one to really make that a trend.
Yeah, I would think that a lot of people this day and age think the Joan Crawford look as Faye Dunaway as Joan Crawford. Like that's how. Like when I think of her, that's how I picture her. Really, in my head, is like that look, the Mommie Dearest look.
Well, the funny thing is that Joan Crawford, I think, said at one time that if anyone was to play her in a movie, it would be Faye Dunaway.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think she did. I think that was said somewhere.
Wow, that's pretty interesting, considering that apparently Faye Dunaway was not easy to work with.
That's exactly what I was talking. We were just talking about that earlier.
Nobody liked her, and actually. When the movie came out, even Betty Davis hated Faye Dunaway at the end more than Joan Crawford.
Yep.
I was like, wow, that's insane.
And she said that for years. She said that for years on late night talk shows. Like every time she was asked who was probably the worst you've ever worked with, she always said Faye Dunaway.
Yeah.
And I know in that that series Feud with Jessica Lange and what's her name? Quick from Thelma and Louise.
Yeah, it was Susan Sarandon.
Yes, Susan Sarandon played Betty Davis in there, and they have like that small little scene where
you mean Tim Robbins' mother?
Yes, yes, where Betty is. I think it was a TV movie with Faye Dunaway that they worked on together. Was the project, and you see like. Betty and the cast are just sitting there waiting, and she just gets fed up at some point. She's like, where the fuck is Faye Dunaway at? And all that stuff. She's like, this is unprofessional and blah, blah, blah. But I mean, she was always kind of difficult on the set anyway, from what, like you were saying. Like,
more story. Her, just the drama.
This is what we're talking Chinatown
about.
Shit.
Am I the drama? Yes, Faye, you're the drama.
She was. She really was. Her and, oh my God, what's her name? The director from Chinatown. Like they clashed a lot on that set. I think he even smacked her at one time on the set.
Oh,
in order something like that.
Jesus,
couldn't do that now.
Or maybe I got that mixed up with or maybe I got that mixed up with The Shining, because you know how he treated that actress.
Oh, Stanley Kubrick. I don't think
Yeah.
he ever smacked her though.
Don't
I
smack-
don't,
okay.
yeah, I don't
But
think-
he was kind of an asshole though. Like when you see like some of the behind the scenes stuff
Shelley
on The
Duvall,
Shining,
yeah.
like he was kind of an asshole the way he spoke to her sometimes.
I was gonna say, I
like,
think he
ooh.
was more of a mental abuser
Yeah.
than a physical abuser. Yeah. But now we get back. She's back home, and we get to see this clean freak nature that Joan has, because you literally see her scrubbing the floors and getting on her.
Oh my god! And that big house she has.
As tourists
Yeah.
are coming outside of her house
Yep.
on there's a See
Yep.
the Stars
See the
tours.
Stars tour. I mean, you
And
gotta
she-
admit, it's a nice house, but
It's a beautiful house that she had there.
that's
in,
the one thing about this movie that
what's
is
that
you
Brentwood.
can't
That was
deny
where her house was,
is
Brentwood.
yeah, that production design. in this
Yeah,
movie
the
was
production,
really good.
and that's the thing I was telling Chris I love
Costumes
about
was
this
really
movie is
good.
that even though it was filmed in 1981, something like that, like it looks like one of those like 1950s like Technicolor films
yeah.
and production films. It's got the bright, vivid colors. It's got the flood lighting going on.
And you even get like the the lighting shots something around the eyes.
Yeah, you
where
get
it
like
just
that,
try to focus on her sometimes.
Yeah, you get that. I forget what that's called. Yeah, and you get like some of the butterfly lighting effect and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like it's really, really like. And again, I mean, it kind of takes me back to the like the Death Becomes Her, the way that they did
Yeah,
that
they did,
old
yep.
style
Mhm.
Hollywood glamour lighting.
Which was like the purpose of it is that.
But anyway,
feel,
it fits the point of the film because I mean a lot of the movie takes place in that like 40s, 50s,
Right.
60s,
60s
70s
time, where that was kind of like the style that they did the
Yeah.
movies in.
Looking it up, very little of it actually takes place in the 60s and 70s, though, Chris. I'll tell
Very
you that.
little. No, it is very little.
Yeah.
But you do see definitely that period, a little bit of the 60s there, like when like the soap opera particular, when she even goes and visits Christina and you see
Right,
the hair.
yeah.
That's definitely 60s right there, that
Yeah.
hairstyle. So yeah.
Yes. That part.
70s barely.
Yeah, very much barely, yeah. We'll talk about that as we get there. But yeah, you see her first little anger here because she's getting the maid, I guess. Yeah, that's what she's yelling at.
Helga.
Yes, Helga. Yes. Which apparently this Helga character was like a compilation of like 3 different women that were nannies / secretaries for Joan throughout her life, and they just rolled her into this one character because it makes sense. I mean, you wouldn't want to see person after person because you'd be like, who is this? Who is this? Who is this? So I understand why they did that.
Yeah.
But you see her asking her, did you clean the living room? Did you do it all the way? And of course, she picks up the pot and there's dirt all over, and she gets mad and angry.
That's what I was telling Chad. I was like, it was interesting how she seems kind of happy and energetic. Like, I'm cleaning the house. And then she gets the other Carol Ann comes in and is like, oh, Helga just finished in the living room. So then she comes to that living room edge there and she stops for a second. It's like she has a spidey sense. Like, something seems off about this.
There's
room.
dirt somewhere.
I know, and she
there.
starts going around, and she starts even and Chad's
running her
like,
finger along.
when she's running her finger along like a table or something. Chad's like, "Oh, she's one of those
I
people."
was like, oh god.
And then she stops at the plant, and then she takes a double take for a second, and goes back, and that's when she moves
You
that.
have to move the plant if you're cleaning the floors.
It's like, if you're going to do it
Carol
right.
Ann, bring me the soap. You have to stay on top of things.
Yeah. And she's like, don't. And then she tells that one lady, she's like, tells Helga, she's like, it's okay. I'm not mad at you. I'm mad at the dirt.
That is a good line. That's a good line.
I was like, you know what? We should just use that anytime we're cleaning. Like,
Yeah.
it's not
I'm not
anybody
mad at you.
else.
I'm
It's
just
it's
mad
the
at the
dirt.
Oh, and then her boyfriend arrives, Greg, and of course he first thing he does take off his shoes because he's not gonna walk through the house, which I think is more normal or commonplace now. I don't know how it was then. Like, I think they use that to emphasize her cleanliness, that you're not even going to have shoes walk through. I think a lot of people do that nowadays, so I don't know.
Yeah, although I was going to say, like, I mean, she and the
Well, it's
maids and
uncouth
all
to,
wore shoes throughout
take your
the rest
shoes
of the
off
house
in front of
throughout-
people.
yeah.
And...
But they wore shoes in the house anyway throughout the rest of the movie.
Yeah. But she had just cleaned the floor.
But
so
she
part
just
of
cleaned
it,
the floor.
she's doing that mom
so,
thing.
Yeah.
Like when you grow up, and your mom mops the floor. She's like, "Don't you dare go in that kitchen! I just mopped that floor."
Yep.
You're like, "But I want a snack." Well, too bad.
Yep, pretty much. Yeah. So it's like for a few hours.
Yeah,
no,
for a few hours, they
can't.
just want to admire their fucking floor that they cleaned. Like, come on.
Yeah, I guess. And then I gotta admit, I get a
scrubbing.
little jealous at this next scene because then we get Joan. She's in the shower, but she's got a shower head behind her and from each side, and I'm like, oh, I love that.
A 3-sided shower head. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
But I like how it like it's so dramatic.
Yeah,
you know,
very much so.
That door just
glides
opens up,
open.
and she's just spread out with her arms and stuff like that. And yeah, that was funny. And then of course, like when he got in, because then he tries to close the door, but it's like he kind of slant the door behind him
because it popped back open.
Yeah,
right?
but then the door kind of popped back open a little bit. And I'm like, oh, she's gonna get mad because there's
water's
water
pouring
all
out. Water's
over
pouring
on there.
out.
Yeah, she ain't gonna like that.
Well, it helped clean up the dirt behind, I guess.
But she wouldn't like the mold.
Oh, true. The mildew or whatever the fuck it is.
Then we get to Joan doing her publicity. She's got to be out there in front of the people, and this time she's with nuns, and she sees a girl, and you see she's getting this idea that a baby will give me good publicity.
That's
this
right.
is not a
orphanage.
Yeah, yes, she's doing it at an orphanage. You're right. And even Greg tells her, because she tells him she wants to have a baby. She's like, "You're too vain to have a baby." I was like,
"Tell her, Greg. Tell her."
Really, he did.
And then she said, and I don't know if this part's true because I didn't look up everything, but she says she was pregnant 7 times and lost the baby every time. And I was like, oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, I know she had several miscarriages in her life that she couldn't have her own children.
Yeah.
So yeah, that must have been very heartbreaking to her, I'm sure.
And then you got to think too, at this point, she's like basically pushing 40.
Mm-hmm.
That this was happening for her. So, because I think this would have been late 30s. Was this about maybe late 30s when this?
Yeah, the movie's starting in 1938, so I think that's where this is.
39. Sense. Yeah, 39 is when she adopted Christina.
Okay, that makes sense then. But yeah, like she was kind of pushing, and then of course she's single on top of that. So back then, it was like
she's unmarried.
She's unmarried. There's no father figure.
Interestingly enough, though, I did learn, because I know like back then, like especially if you were a man and you were like unmarried and single or whatever, they would, oh, he must be gay kind of thing. But Joan Crawford was actually bisexual. Believe it or not, she actually had several trysts. Well, she had a couple of trysts with some actresses, which I thought was kind of interesting. So, I mean, not that it really has anything to do with the movie, but there it is.
Supposedly. Okay, I didn't realize that, Chad. So we learned something new. Yeah, the next thing I had was about her trying to get the adoption, being denied for, like you said, living alone and having 2 divorces to her name at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And so she's denied an adoption because what could she do? She wouldn't be able to care for a child because of that, apparently.
Well, and then I can't remember, but did they also deny her because she was also a little older? Or was it just because mostly she was unmarried?
I know they cited the fact that she was a
but
busy woman and that she's had two divorces, right?
2 divorces,
yeah, that was the
lives
big one.
alone, and just said an unsuitable parent is.
Yeah, like she would basically never have the time to take care of a child.
Which is crazy because you sit there and you think like, well, there are a ton of people who do not need to be parents, and you see what they do.
Exactly. But of course, Greg gets her a baby. It works out. She's got the nursery set up. And of course, we find out this is Christina. And then we get, I don't know how old Christina's supposed to be at this birthday party. Because she looks.
I figured she looked like maybe like 7, 8, or something.
Exactly. But she's really only like 1 or 2. Because she adopted Christopher, which we see baby Christopher at this birthday party.
Yeah.
When Christina was 2 years old. Which is why I say the ages and the actresses playing it is kind of weird for me. But I also think, like, it's this big, lavish birthday party with the carnival set up. But you also notice there's people in the back filming everything to make sure that this gets seen.
It's the studio.
Cameras everywhere.
Studio promotion, because even back then, well, you had all those actors and also they were under contract to different studios. So all those studios, what they would do is they would always send out film crew and cameras to always get pictures of these stars and their their private lives and all that stuff in order to just further promote the
But it's
stars
funny
or
'cause,
to
like, all
further
those
promote the
photographs were also
projects and
staged
films.
too.
Yes,
Like, you know, they
yeah,
weren't like
yeah.
as candid as they were meant to
Right.
come across as.
It was
They were
all to
all
look
staged.
perfect. Yeah.
And it's funny you brought up the studios because we'll get into that more later. But I did find it interesting. This movie was put out by Paramount, which is like the only studio Joan didn't produce a movie for. So
That's a good point.
yeah, I found that looking through. I didn't realize it obviously going, but yeah,
Because I think she was with MGM for the longest time. I think that's where she.
Yeah,
that's where the scene, at least on here, takes place where they're letting her go. Metro, which is MGM. So yeah,
she was talking to Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
yes. And then we cut back to the room, and Christina's getting to open her presents, right? And she's got a ton of presents because all these people were there. It's big, lavish. And then Joan asks her which one she likes the best, and she tells her it's this baby doll. And then she's like,
and not only that, it's the gift that she got from her mom.
Is it? I can't remember. Okay.
Yeah, the baby doll came from Joan.
Okay. But Joan tells her she can keep that one, and the rest are going to the orphans who out there are in need, which I get, but my goodness, the day you get all these presents, you're told you're allowed to keep one present. Oh, I'd be heartbroken.
I know, yeah.
I would feel bad.
Like, give it a year. Christina will move past most of those things in a year.
Yeah, because like I get the message. I think it's, you know, that's considerate of Joan, but then on the other hand, I'm sitting there going like, that's her birthday. She just got all these gifts, and now you're asking her to only pick one out of everything she got, and especially from all those gifts, because there was tons of them.
Right. She only got to keep one, and like you said, it's considerate of Joan, and I don't know how she actually felt about it, but obviously we're made to believe from this film that it's purely publicity to make her look good in front of people, to give, because you know there's going to be people around while she's giving these. She ain't going in private and anonymously donating all these gifts to the orphanage. You know that. She's going to make sure her name is attached.
Yes, everything she did.
Exactly.
Much, you know, everything she. Yeah, I don't know. Everything she did, even for anything that had to do with the kids or even her own kids, it had some sort of an attachment to her publicity to some extent, you know?
Then Greg stops by for her birthday, gives her a bracelet, which Joan does let her keep the bracelet, so at least there was that.
Right. We'll make an exception.
Reluctantly, she lets her keep it.
Yeah, and then because she let her, she had to make the statement that adopted children are the luckiest because they were chosen.
Yeah. Which, that sounds sweet too, in a way, but, you know.
It's like, fuck everybody else, right?
Pretty
much. Yes.
Fuck my drag, right?
Oh, yeah. There you go, Chad. Oh, then we get this pool scene with Christina swimming in the pool, and Joan just, it's not good enough. We don't know how long she's been doing it at this point, but Christina looks tired. She's saying she's tired.
Yeah.
And Joan said, "Don't be a quitter," and then she wants to race her.
On top of that, we have Greg, who I think is also like her manager, right? From the studio.
He's like a lawyer, manager.
He's like her lawyer and manager at the same time. So she's like, she does mention that there's one project she wants to get, but she's not like at the top of the list, and she's kind of mad that he's not doing enough to push her, because we do find out there's some really good news that happens eventually after her jog. So I want to make sure we throw that in there. But there was a point while he was there, and that moment before she does that swim with Christina and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's true. Good point. I did not write that down, so I forgot that. It's a good point, Chris.
You're good. That's just me being.
But like, she's competing against a child.
Oh my god, this was this was rough. This was rough.
Because she's like, yeah, I'll give you a head start, and she gives her a head start, and then still, of course, wins. And not only does she win, but then she's like, I'm bigger, I'm faster, and I'll always beat you. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Jeez, let the kid win. My God.
Well, that's the thing. She pretty much set from the beginning somehow that
it's a dog world.
Well, not just that, but it's now a competition between her and her own daughter.
Yeah.
You know, that set the stage for everything to eventually come, you know, and for a lot of those challenges. And I think part of the thing about Joan is that she was just, here's like a nubile young little girl that's going to eventually become a young woman and could potentially knock her from her post in any way or form in life. And I think she just doesn't like it. She wants to make sure that she's queen bee, if you will.
Yep. And then, of course, Christina gets done and says, fine, if you're going to be like this, I'm not going to play with you anymore. Joan gets mad, sends her to her room. Christina refuses, so she spanks her and puts her in the pool closet. And I was like, oh, that's so much worse.
And here's the thing: this is probably the first instance where we start to see like frequent temper tantrums from Joan, and even this is like one of those moments where it seems like just a little bit over the top. You know, because I think some part of the thing about this movie is that there's so many of these temper tantrums that kind of come frequently in a row that it makes it come off campy. I think that's part of the campy aspect of it, is because of the follow up. Like almost everything she has with Christina has to have a temper tantrum.
And then next up is this jogging scene as Helga's driving beside her. Is it Helga that's driving?
No, this one's
Carol Ann.
Yeah, Carol Ann's the main maid that we see throughout the movie.
Okay.
Helga was like the overweight older woman.
Okay, I gotcha. So Chad said the important line he wanted to say for when she was driving, and then we cut back, like you said, right after the jogging scene, and this is where Greg's calling her to tell her she got the role. And Joan's excited and wants to tell Christina. Okay, talk about the role, Chris. I know you're going to talk about it.
Oh no, like I can't remember which this one was for though in her career. I definitely remember the Mildred Pierce thing that happens eventually.
Yeah, but that comes after her firing from MGM.
But I just know it was a big thing for her. This moment was because that's his big part in the movie. He was the one that helped her with getting the part she wants. And at this point, she was so much of a star that she didn't even have to do auditions or screen tests. It was just basically.
Well, I think the thing is too, because I mean, he did mention in there at one point that because I know with Joan Crawford, like most of her movies before Mildred Pierce were.
Well, she played a lot of like similar roles,
rags to riches kind of characters, and these were often very young and youthful characters. And of course, here she was pushing middle age,
and some of those movies started not doing well.
They started
in the box
not doing
office.
Too well, you know, and so her attractiveness, for those kind of stories just sort of waned.
Yeah, Mildred Pierce was such a big. It was a big turnaround by that time for her. Yeah, but anyway, so we see her where she's excited. She goes upstairs. She's like, "I gotta tell Christina."
Yeah, that's the good thing, is that she's excited to share the news with her daughter.
Yeah,
but it turns bad. It turns bad quick, unfortunately.
Oh my god, this was crazy because I'm sitting there like, she goes into her room, she sees Christina in front of the mirror playing dress up and also playing acting, but she's play acting as like her mom in a way, like how her mom would respond. I guess you could say publicly and stuff.
Yeah,
but some reason Joan takes it as offense and takes it as some sort of insulting thing. And that's the thing that's weird about these temper tantrums, because they kind of come out of nowhere. And you kind of sit there and think like, but what did Christina really do to deserve that kind of treatment? To be like, how was her acting like you and playing like you? How was this insulting? Like, what was she saying? It's not like she's sitting there being like, I'm Mommie Dearest. I'm a big old bitch. But,
I would have loved to see little Christina do that.
I'm a big old bitch. But, she goes crazy. And then, we see where she's like,
what'd you do to this hair?
What'd you do to your hair? And she she's like trying to straighten it with that comb, that looked painful.
That looked painful because she was pulling that hair, and then she starts taking the scissors and cutting it.
Just cuts it, yeah.
And then she was like, and she's like, I'm not going to have a daughter that looks like a tramp.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how does she look like a tramp?
How are you making this fucking leap, bitch?
Yeah.
Like, come on.
It was bad.
Yeah, it was bad. It was a big jump, and it was quick. Yeah. But the next season, Joan and Greg going to dinner, and of course, there's people outside crowded around, and they don't know who Greg is. He's a lawyer, manager, I guess.
And how rude was it of him to just keep on going, not even try to be there by her side to walk her through the crowd, which she does point at it, by the way.
She points it out.
Chris, she was justified in her anger on this.
Well, I agree with that. Like, I mean, he's kind of her date for that evening. He should have been there to make sure she's okay in the crowd.
I agree, but I think he's also been around enough that he knows that she wants this. She craves this attention. She can play like she doesn't, but she wants this attention to sign for the fans.
No, absolutely.
I think she would have been angry if he tried to pull her through. I think she would have got angry at him and made him stop anyway. Yeah, she can play that.
That's true too.
Because he
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of like, I guess your point is basically he's damned if he does, damned if he does.
Yeah, because I think he would have got yelled at if he tried. I mean, maybe he could have at least stuck around for a couple minutes and then just leaned over and whispered, "I'm gonna go on in" or something.
I guess if it was like me, I would have just been like, "Hey, she's going to do her thing, but I'm going to be right here beside her." You know what I mean? Just let her do her thing, and that's it. I wouldn't try pulling her. I'd be like, "She's
stand in my spotlight,"
and she may do that too. She may even be mad at that. Like, how do you stand beside me?
Yeah, like I said, I think it was definitely a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation with him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess you do learn when it comes to Joan. You're wrong.
I have no opinion.
Well, and then when you're around Joan, you never know. You're walking on eggshells.
That's true. So by the time she does get in, I don't know how much time has passed, but it does seem like some time has passed.
A few minutes for sure. Yeah, somehow.
Yeah,
he's already at that table with the big wigs with Mr. Mayor, and,
right?
And a couple other guys who I guess are financing a picture that she's going to be in.
Do we ever see like Mr. Metro and Mr. Goldwyn at all in this movie?
No,
just Mr. Mayor.
Just Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, I think they just need that one. If they try to, she probably had these meetings with all three, but it's an easier way to keep your characters down so you know who it is you're dealing with every time. Well, otherwise you're having to reintroduce them every time.
Yeah, it's funny. At first, when she was taught Mr. Mayor, I was like, why is she mad at the city of Los Angeles mayor? Like, what did he ever do?
I did too. I thought it was the mayor, like the mayor of the city, not the mayor of MGM. I didn't. Yeah, I thought the same thing.
Like a key to the city or something.
And the next thing you know, she's mad at Mayor McCheese across the street.
Oh, but of course, afterwards we get the scene with her and Greg, and she's like, "Yeah, mad. I'm damn mad." Oh, I love the way she says it and that. And of course she's
but real quick too, when she does show up at that table, we see where she meets she's talking to Mr. Mayor. She's like, "Oh, by the way, my table's ready. I'm gonna go, we're gonna have dinner." But then he basically gives her the eye and he's like, "No, you're not. You're gonna stay here." Which is another thing of showing again how women were kind of shown in Hollywood as well. Like apparently she was there to be the showpiece and to be that star piece as well for these two guys, these two bigwigs that he had in order to impress them. So, and she was, because that's something that she gets mad about with him as well, that he didn't do anything to, I don't know, keep them separate. So because we see that part where she kind of looks at him like, I'm blaming you.
Yeah.
I'm stuck with this because of you.
Yeah, and you're right. That's exactly what she's saying. She's damn mad about is the fact that they went there to have a date together, and they ended up sitting there basically doing a business meeting.
Yep,
right.
Exactly.
And of course, this is where Greg threatens to leave, and she says, "If you leave, you're not coming back." And he walks out, and we don't see him again.
Greg anymore.
In fact, not only do we not see him, the next morning she's on her bed cutting his face out of all the pictures that he's in. And like Christine even goes down and looks at one of them, and she's like, "If mommy doesn't like you, she can make you disappear." And I'm like, "Oh, whew.
Yeah,
that's scary to think about."
And she has Christopher there with
her. I pay $1,000 to roll him off in a ditch somewhere.
Yeah, and she picks up that one picture of him cut out, with his head cut out from that picture. Yeah, that's pretty sad,
right?
Yeah.
And I thought that was interesting because that's the one we see her cut, and then it's already down in the frame. But I'm like, I guess it's just to show that Christina saw it as well. So
yeah,
it was a weird way of shooting it. But then we see like she has this group of women packing up all those, like you said, she's always signing autographs. Well, now you see a woman packing up these headshots. I guess sending them out to all her fans. Which, I gotta admit, until I saw this, I didn't really know that was a thing back then.
It was, and actually, what's really cool is many years ago we had an uncle of ours, a great uncle, my mom's uncle. When he passed away and we were going through some of his things, he actually had like a
photo
album
Mm-hmm.
of autographs from celebrities back then that he collected and got
he
through
would
the
write
mail.
to them and they would send them back like an autographed picture.
Yeah.
Oh wow,
So,
very
yeah.
cool.
And apparently, like even there's some stars that still do that today
Mm-hmm.
as well. I think even Betty White did it.
Betty White did
probably
it.
up to the day she
Yeah.
died. So I know there was a way of trying to do that. Even
you
though
know,
you'll be
now,
waiting
of
for a
course,
while.
you know, everybody makes extra money going to all these conventions and
Yeah.
stuff because they know they can charge
Or,
$100 for an autograph and people are willing to pay for it.
Or online. Some
Or
stars
online,
will have their own page. Like I actually got a Julie Newmar autograph from her website many years ago and sent it through the mail.
I love that autograph that I have.
I know, right? Same. I need to try to get another one though because I want to get one with her as Catwoman for sure.
Oh, there you go. Now we get a scene Tina and Chris playing outside in the yard, and Joan is not happy because they are being loud.
Then she's like, Christina,
Christopher, damn it.
Yeah. That's it.
Carolyn, for Christ's sakes, get these kids to shut up and get them out of the garden.
Yeah. You know how this day is important for me.
She was resting because she was having a screen test, right?
No. This was...
She just has a meeting with Mr. Mayor again.
That's right. And she was having to look her best, so she was getting her beauty rest.
Right. Yeah. But before we see that, you talked about how she was in Joan's room doing the stuff, and she took it as mocking her, basically.
Yeah.
Well, now Joan walks in on Christina playing with her dolls, and this time she's repeating what Mommy said. You girl, you dog, you are all bad because you bad for waking up Mommy. And Joan sees this, not happy. Tina leaves. No. She comes back. Next thing you know, all those dolls are gone.
Yeah, here's the thing. Okay, this is one of the scenes that was really effective in terms of like showing the emotional, I think kind of that emotional abuse that she gives to Christina. Because I like this is the one scene where you don't see Joan lose her temper necessarily. Yeah. She doesn't go crazy. She just does like this kind of like guilty, very cold moment thing instead. Like where she's in there, Christina comes to her and she's like, all my dolls are gone. Where are they? And her Joan's like, well, maybe them being selfish and spoiled and all that stuff. It
was a very Lady Tremaine type.
It was like Cinderella stepmother thing. Yeah, she's like, maybe they won't disturb you or something like that.
Or like an Angelica Houston and Ever After.
Yeah, because even the eye stare that she had was just very cold.
And she said rubbing that lotion on her fucking elbows.
Yes. So I was like, that I really appreciate because it was something different than what we were seeing frequently in the movie with her losing her temper at Christina. And I was like, this is other ways to show the other forms of abuse that Christina went through. Yeah. And part of that is the mental and emotional aspect of it. Just saying, I know that was looking a little too much into it, perhaps.
No, I think that was great insight.
Classic.
Josh is like, very sad. Anyway.
Anyway, now Joan is going to meet with Mr. Mayor, and he's basically asking her to like leave the studio because the last few films, like you guys are
terminating her.
He basically is, but he's trying to be nice about it because he does ask her to leave. Yes,
he's being. Think about that. He's being nice about it,
right? It's one of those situations, like even in sports, where a coach goes in, they come out and they mutually agree to part ways when really someone's being fired, but they don't want to make it sound as bad in public.
Because then what he tells her too is like, she's like, oh, well, I'll be back to pick up my things from my trailer. And he's like, oh, it's already been packed up and put in your car. Yeah. And she's like, everybody knows. And he's like, oh, they only know that creative differences got in the way. So he made up an excuse for everyone else. But even though between them, it was, well,
I think she probably knew too that everybody knew that was a bullshit answer.
Oh, yeah. Especially when she turned around. She's like, will you walk me to my car?
Yeah.
And he just had this face like, and he didn't even answer. And she's like, Hollywood royalty. Because he called her Hollywood royalty right there in the same conversation. But yet he wouldn't walk with her.
I think part of it too is, maybe he was also just a little heartbroken about having to do that as well. Because
maybe, but some of those
he kind of, I don't know, to me he kind of looked like he was on the verge of crying when she left the office.
maybe
for a
I don't
second there. I
know.
don't know.
The
I
thing
don't know.
is,
I feel like he had a long relationship with her, and I don't think he wanted to do it.
no
But
question.
her movies were losing money. They said.
Yeah, he
So-
said like her last 3 pictures were really bad at the
Tanked
box,
in
and
the
they
box
weren't
office,
willing
yeah.
to do another one with her.
Right.
So, but that goes to show you again as well when she's like, "Well, it's not me; it's just bad scripts, bad directors, bad projects." And
I tell you, and that's the thing too about Hollywood, is that when a movie does well, everybody wants to take the credit for it. But when a movie tanks, they want to blame it on a director or an actor. You don't ever see a fucking executive at a movie studio take responsibility for a bad fucking movie.
that's true.
You will never see that.
And then their case, they blamed her.
Yep.
And again,
because
it's
she was the
but
big star. She was the
not
big
just
face
the
of
star, but she's a woman.
Yep.
And she's an aging actress.
And she's
at this
exactly, yeah.
point. So, of course, they're going to put her out, basically.
And Chris, this leads to, I guess, what is one of your favorite scenes, but the Christina, bring me.
Oh yeah, it's
her
it's
with
one of
the
the most
bitches.
famous scenes. Yeah, and then in Chad, it was kind of funny because Chad's like, "What kind of dress is she wearing?" But then
She's wearing like I don't know, like a
it's like an awards dress,
award dress
yeah.
or something. It was had
But
like rhinestones all over. it and
again,
everything.
you got to think
she's like chopping the rose bushes.
But you got to think she's Hollywood royalty, so she's dressed in her royalty outfit. But yeah, she was going crazy. And then of course you got Carol Ann coming up there, waking up Christina and Christopher, and like, your mother wants you. I'm sorry, but if I was that maid, I would sit there and go, Joe, I am not waking up those kids to come down here. I will help you clean up these roses or whatever you need, but we are not bringing the kids into this. Carol Ann was just pretty weak with the like.
Yeah, but she.
Well, I think she was scared. I think she was intimidated.
Yeah, well, I'm sure she was, but at some point, even as an adult, I had to sit there and go.
And you have to you have to draw a line somewhere, right?
So yeah, and just find another way to be like, oh, ma'am, how about I get your drink? How about
Let's
like
go inside
the
and
things
have a
that
drink.
would
Yeah.
like maybe bring her down a little bit instead of going after the.
Because I wonder if Carol Ann's character was like an what do you call it, an amalgamation of several people.
Probably, I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, you got to think this movie is such a concentration. It's meant to be a concentration on Christina and her mother.
Yeah,
that's really the central focus of this movie is.
But
so
I gotta
put
say,
too many characters in there, it's going to get convoluted.
But the thing that got with me with this scene was, like you said, she goes up and gets up the children, and Christopher is literally strapped into his bed,
and that happened in real life.
And I'm going,
allegedly.
Okay.
Allegedly. Okay. So according to Christina's memories,
according to her memoir, it did.
And I think even Christopher said so too. But because I mean, he backed up everything she said.
He backed up the abuse that Christina talked about in the book. I know he backs it up, even though the other daughter, the twins, don't.
I feel like I remember them saying something. He had like sleepwalking issues or something. That was the reason why she strapped him down at night. Which is crazy because like it doesn't even work because he got himself up out of the damn bed.
Yeah, because he was able to figure out how to unstrap himself. Yeah,
right.
So,
but I also figured, I was like, this kid's gonna be in trouble either way because he's little. He's probably gonna have an accident, and she's gonna be angry about that.
That's true too.
With the way she is, he's not gonna be able to get out of bed. At least at the early age, he wouldn't have been able to.
Because here she is cutting up all these roses that's got thorns because you see the scratches on her face.
Yeah.
And then I love when she's like, Tina, bring me the axe.
Tina! Bring me the axe!
Which, is just dramatic. And the thing is, like, I kind of see a little bit of the director's vision where it's I think that really is kind of the intent of being like, because everything she did was dramatic. And so we're just going to boost that up to 10, basically.
Yeah, right.
And when really it didn't need to be necessarily a 10 all the time, especially at some moments, because he could have brought in Faye Dunaway's performance, just bring it in a little bit more.
But it sounds like the way she was to work with, maybe she didn't want to bring it in. We don't.
And that's probably true too. But
it seemed like nobody liked working with her.
Yeah, maybe. But then again, it's like, what kind of conversations did they have? I wish we kind of knew a little bit more of Faye Dunaway's experience, honestly, but she never talks about the movie. She won't even talk about it at all, which is unfortunate because I'm like, these days has so much more appreciation now
Yep.
than what it did back then.
And then we get a quick scene of Joan rehearsing her lines, and I really just want to point this out because
This
she
point,
literally
this is where
smacks her.
Yeah, this is the point where she's going for Mildred Pierce. This is the project she's going
practicing
for
her screen test, I think.
Yeah. So this is the big moment. This is what's going to bring back Joan's career.
Does she really smack the maid? Because I couldn't tell if it was like a real
thought
smack
she
or
did,
if it was
but
like a
I think she's,
actor.
I think she
smack.
just did like an actor, like a snap or something like that instead.
Maybe I took it as she smacked her. At least
That's
in the
what I
scene.
thought.
Yeah, because I mean, like there was that weird pause from it. I'm like, holy shit, did she just hit her? Like,
well, even the maid kind of like held
yeah,
her
exactly.
cheek
The
there
maid was
for a
like,
second.
Yeah. So I definitely took that as slapping her. But now it's time for lunch. And what's for lunch? Not only steak, but rare steak.
which you know what? I'd eat the shit out of that.
I would too.
As a child,
Honestly, I would.
as a child,
Yeah, I probably would have. I probably
as
would
an
have
adult, yes, but as a child, I don't think I would have wanted rare steak.
Well, and I mean, I can certainly understand that. I'm just saying that from my perspective, I'm like,
I think as a kid, I
raw,
probably would have
delicious,
tried it
juicy steak.
once at least, because everyone else was like, for example, Christopher was eating it. So if I see my little sibling eating it, then I'm gonna be like, okay, I'm gonna try
sure
it.
Kathy
At least
and Cindy
try
ate
the
it
first
too.
bite. Try the first bite and see how it goes.
Other thing
That's probably
she's-
me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't think I liked rare as a kid, but this also Christina once again wanting to stand up to her mother, knowing that she's.
Yes.
I did think it's funny. She does say that the doctor says it's good to eat it that way, and nowadays that's reversed. It's kids should eat well done steaks. They shouldn't have them rare like that.
Right.
I was wondering about
also
that.
back then too, doctors were prescribing people to smoke.
Yeah, because
So-
she said like,
there you go.
because what was it? She was saying like the vitamins, are
yeah.
cooked out of the steak if it's cooked
If it's cooked too well, it
too
loses
well
all
or
of its
something like that. That's what she
vitamins.
told Christina.
I don't know if that's true or not.
But
I'm
I
not
was
a
like, is that
foodologist.
true or what? Because she's like, well, I take my, and I love too because Christina's, I think she's like, well, I already take my vitamins in the morning.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then she's like, everything that comes out of her mouth is the goddamn Hollywood agent.
Yeah.
But she's not going to let Christina move until she eats. And she comes back
Nope.
down. She has not touched her plate. So what she do? She tells her to go to bed, but she puts that plate in the fridge and then tells her that she's going to have dinner in her room alone that night with this same meal. And I'm like, okay, if this steak has been out all day, that steak is bad.
Oh, right. And then she set it out the next morning.
And then Then the next morning for breakfast, and I'm like, the steak is bad. If she eats it, she's going to be sick at this point. Luckily, she doesn't.
Teach that kid a lesson.
Well, I get
was a
it,
joke.
but
That was a
there
joke.
is.
That was a
I
joke.
know exactly.
Don't
Like,
get triggered. That was a joke.
Yeah, I get it as well, but I'm like,
Yeah.
come on, just give the kids something else. Just like, well, fine, you get peanut butter and jelly.
Yeah, I'm like at a certain point, and finally at breakfast, she is allowed to throw it out. So there's at least that.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think you can kind of tell
It was
a
a
little
power. It was a power of
bit,
willpower, or a battle of willpower. There we go.
Willpower, yeah,
Is what
and
that was. Yeah.
And at this point, notice that it was Christina who won this one,
right?
In a way, it was, and I think that kind of ticked off Joan, or I don't want to say disappointed because Joan I don't think would feel disappointed,
No.
but I think she would feel like I'm challenged. Someone has really challenged me here in this moment. Yeah,
challenging me.
a beta female, exactly.
Yeah.
Beta
And I
female.
would almost wonder, would Joan almost have like a small sense of pride, like way to stand your ground, girl? But I don't know if she would or not.
Agreed. Yeah.
Oh no, hell
Because
no.
you know that moment where she went upstairs to tuck in to pull the blankets up. Notice that she picked up the plate and she did take a moment to rub Christina's hand and stuff, like to show some love, I guess you say. Yeah, some love, for better lack of term. And so you can and then she gets down the steps and it's like she kind of took a moment to be like, I'm proud of her for standing up for herself.
I took it that way too, and I thought, and then when it came back for breakfast, I was like, well, shit, I guess not.
I know she wanted to try it one more time. I guess she wanted to try breaking that will, and Christina was just like, no. And I'm like, well, you know what? I guess they really are mother and daughter because she may have been adopted, but apparently this adoption didn't fall far from the tree, from the apple tree, or how the old saying goes.
The apple tree.
All right, now we know we're in early 1946 because this is where they're listening to the Oscars on the radio.
Oh, and this was a tough category that year for Best Actress.
Yeah.
Oh, it was. So this was not a easy win for her, right?
No. Well, I mean, all the movies they listed, I was like, holy crap.
Yeah, because you had
it's impossible. It's like Sophie's Choice.
Yep. Ingrid Bergman was nominated, and Gene Tierney for Leave Her to Heaven was nominated.
I did notice that. I was like, oh, I remember Chad picking that movie one time.
So man, Leave Her to Heaven's great.
It is. It's a awesome movie. One of the best movies ever.
Joan wins Best Actress for Mildred Pierce, so I'm sure you guys have seen it. I have not seen Mildred Pierce. So.
It's a great movie. If you ever do get the chance to see it, Josh, absolutely check it out. It's amazing.
Not the Kate Winslet remake, though. Oh, that one's not bad.
No, it's not bad. The Kate Winslet is a mini series.
Joan Crawford one's better.
This one you will like because it's got that film noir tone to it, and you get invested. You really do. It's great.
And then we see something that I don't think celebrities would appreciate this, and that's where all these photographers are camping out on her lawn. And she gives them a speech.
Yeah, but Josh, this is Joan Crawford.
That's what I'm saying. This is celebrities were different back then, I guess, because celebrities would not put up with this day and age.
If you notice in real life, there's a picture of her in the bed with the Oscar. I think for the next day or something like that. Because she claimed that she was sick, and that's why she didn't show up to the ceremony. Because I don't think she thought she was going to really win necessarily, but she was. But I think Christina in the autobiography thinks that she set it up for sympathy, kind of for the sympathy vote and stuff like that. She portrayed herself as being sick or really sick or something like that in real life is what she portrayed herself as.
Borderline personality disorder.
Really, you're saying it was just because she didn't think she was going to win, so she didn't want to go.
That, and I think part of it was like the campaigning, because like when you're nominated, you're pretty much campaigning for all the popularity award season.
Yeah,
and so for her, I think she used the excuse of, or she at least Christina claims that she used the excuse of being sick as I think a way of getting the sympathy vote.
Well, she didn't seem too sick when she came out on her front lawn to be like, "Oh, thank you. There's no
right." And I don't know if I don't know if that happened in real life, but I do know like somehow. I mean, obviously you got reporters that are able to see her in her bed with the Oscar. There is a picture of that somewhere. I think you can find it online.
Yeah, I'm sure if I did a quick Google search, I could pull it up. But now, Chris. Here we go, coming to the most famous scene in this movie. That, of course, is Christina sleeping. Joan goes in. She starts looking through her closet to make everything neat.
Oh, yep, the classic scene.
And what does she find? She finds a wire hanger in Christina's closet. And she absolutely loses it. She's throwing all the clothes on the floor. You get the classic, no wire hangers ever.
No wire hangers! What's wire hangers doing in this closet when I told you no wire hangers ever?
So, Chris, okay, I want to put this question to you.
Sure.
This is a little girl. Is she out there buying her own hangers? Like,
yeah,
why are you blaming her for this hanger? This is not.
Tell me about it. Tell me. I'm like, is she washing her own clothes and hanging her clothes? I doubt Christina was doing that at that time.
One of the maids that did it.
Obviously, one of the maids had to have done it, and so,
but my god, like the way, but her, like she tears the room apart, or she tears the closet. But then, she starts concentrating on the dirt in the bathroom because it's not clean enough, and I'm like, how did she gets triggered by these wire hangers, but then it gets exacerbated by her supposed I don't understand the logic leap that she makes.
Have you noticed
progress?
Yeah, I was gonna say, have you noticed that there were some moments when the moments she would lose her temper and go crazy, and she would do whatever it is to Christina, and then suddenly she has this moment where she stops what she's doing, and you hear her kind of do like a primal scream, and it's kind of like as if she suddenly realizes, "Holy shit, I went red." It's like, "Holy shit, what did I do?" or something. Have you noticed that she has like those moments where she just kind of pauses and she looks at the scene while she's sobbing?
Almost kind of like when she's doing it, she blacks out and then she comes back.
Yeah, exactly. So, and this scene kind of looks just like that as well.
Yeah.
So I mean, obviously she was a drunk. She drank a lot, obviously, and I think this just happened to be a night where she probably was drinking a lot, and then she just thought, I'll go check on the kids, and then she's like, oh, look how pretty the clothes look. Because I guess she's like, oh, something shiny over there. So,
Right.
and oh man, this was actually, I remember, oh man, we were kids when we first saw this movie, me and Chad. It was one of those things. Somehow our mom recommended it.
Yeah.
And she was just like, you should check this out. So I remember the first time seeing this scene here, and it actually kind of freaked me out because she looked scary in her face,
her clown makeup,
beauty cream, and then like particularly that part where she leans over and she's got that dress, and Christina's on the floor, and she's like, yes, mommy, what?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, it's kind of like a Joker moment or something. You expect them to go like, why so serious?
Yeah.
But it was just freaky because the way her eyes were, and then her grimace and all. Oh yeah, it freaked me out as a kid.
I can see that. Like, it is kind of amazing this movie's rated PG. So obviously this was before PG-13.
Yeah.
And I was reading that this movie was originally rated R, and they appealed and got a PG without making any cuts to it.
And that's crazy to think that back then, before that, they didn't have like a median range rating. They didn't even really think about that in terms of like, well, what happens if you have something that's a little extreme, but then not that extreme?
Not extreme enough, yeah.
Right. Because, this being a PG movie, it's kind of terrifying for kids.
Yeah.
There are scenes in this, and I mean, even in this scene, like, you watch it as an adult, and it's easy to tell she's not doing much, but when she's hitting her with the wire hanger, like, as a kid seeing that, like, oh my goodness.
Yeah. And she's like hitting hard, you hear that thump going on.
And you hear the thump, but luckily when it cuts to Christina, you can tell it's not hitting hard, at least doesn't.
Well, yeah. But then like in the bathroom, she even hits her with the can.
The canister.
The canister of the soap or the powder.
The Ajax. I think it's Ajax, because I know because of this scene, basically after this movie came out, people would basically do it like they did Rocky Horror, and they would bring Ajax and wire hangers to the screenings to support the movie. Like it hit cult status while it was still on a theatrical run, and apparently the producers at Paramount or whatever were angry about it. But I'm like, got your movie some notoriety there.
Exactly. Because you know what, they probably, and I'm sure that was the goal, is that they were wanting it to be like big Oscar bait, basically big Oscar.
Well, I read Faye Dunaway thought for sure she would not only be nominated, she thought she was going to win an Oscar for this role. So when it came out the way it did, that's kind of why she refuses to talk about it now, because she thought it was going to be something completely different. Unfortunately, she can't embrace the campiness, I guess, that she did bring to it. If you'd be able to turn yourself around and embrace it, you'd realize you have so many fans, but I guess you just can't bring yourself to do it with this role.
You got to have a little bit of humor in yourself and be like, okay, it was a little camp, but you know what? At least people, I don't know. Too bad she never really embraced it, though, because I think it would have done a lot of wonders for her in a way, because she sort of, I don't know, she sort of closed herself off for, I think, the possibilities of her future projects.
And then, like I said, she's yelling at her, and then of course she makes this huge mess, throwing all this powder on the floor, all these clothes on the floor, and she tells Christina she has to clean it up. And she's like, how? And she's like, figure it out. And Christina's like, Jesus Christ. And I was like, and then, Chad, this is where you talk about Christopher getting out of the bed, because he comes over and asks for help. And she said, no, go strap yourself in. She'll kill me if she finds out you helped. And I'm like, she believes it. She believes that Joan will kill her if she finds out that she had help with this.
She probably would.
And she very well might, but we can definitely tell Christina feels that way.
Well, and then after that, of course,
Christmas
I think this
Eve.
is where we jump, right? Oh, yeah, the Christmas Eve one.
This is the Christmas Eve thing where they're having
radio.
For the radio, and they ask if they get a lot of presents, and she's like, we do, but we like to share them with the less. I mean, she puts on this perfect image. This is why Joan adopted children. She wanted to be able to do these family things, make her look good in the public, even though inside the home and the public's not there when those people.
They didn't see the wire hangers there from a few nights ago or
Right.
whatever. And so they do that reading for "'Twas the Night Before Christmas."
Yeah, I think that they read the last 2 lines or whatever it is.
Yep. And then everything's happy-go-lucky.
Yep. And then before we do the time jump, Joan has a man over. Christina interrupts her with this man. That's what makes her mad. Next thing you know, she's taking her to boarding school.
Well, this was the funny part too, because I do like that part where she tried to call him uncle, and he's like, "I'm not your uncle." But then they go upstairs, and then she's like, "Oh, Christina, you can call him uncle at this point." And I'm like, right after he told her not to call him uncle. So yeah.
Well, Joan makes rules in that house, so.
And then the funny thing is, she's still a kid and she's serving the liquor. That's pretty crazy. And then for some reason, how I kind of read this a little bit was that Joan, did not like maybe that Christina, I don't think Christina was necessarily flirting or anything in this particular scene, but she seemed very self-assured, I guess, with what she was doing and all. And I try to figure out, well, was she really just pissed off because Christina interrupted her? Is that really just maybe it? Or did I don't know, did I read into this a little differently?
I don't know. I didn't.
Is it still part of the competition between them maybe, or what? What do you guys think?
Honestly, I thought she just made her angry, but you could be right. I could definitely see Joan taking it that way. So
she's like, can't be another young female up in this house.
And you might be right, because that's what leads her to taking her to boarding school, that she's getting rid of the other female in the house at this point. She's like, no more you.
And notice the name of that boarding school is called Chadwick.
Well, it has an impeccable reputation. So.
And then this is where, like you said, we get another time jump, and now Christina's
teenager.
Yes, a teenager. I wasn't sure how old she was supposed to be, because this woman's obviously not a teenager planner, but I wasn't sure how old she was supposed to be yet.
I understand.
I kind of took maybe.
I thought she was
maybe like 15, because like.
Oh, I took.
Because here's the thing. The thing is, she wasn't done with the school yet before she went to that nunnery,
right?
Because and then secondly, there's that point where she comes to visit her mom from the boarding school, and they're at the restaurant, and the way Christina was dressed seemed like very still like young girl in a way.
I think you're right. I don't think she's actually quite 15.
And the way she was drinking, the soda was very kind of still like.
That's true.
A kid in a way.
Yeah. I think she is supposed to be playing a little bit younger than that, because we're going to get to when she turns 15 here in a second.
Okay.
But yeah.
Actress is old to play.
That's what I was talking about. Like, the actors they got to play these roles. When I started looking up how old it was when Joan did this and how old these kids were, I was like, no, these actresses, they're taking me out of it. They're not the right age at all. It's not even close.
You got to think. Sometimes we got these movies that have teenagers in them as characters, and it'll be like a 30-year-old playing a 15-year-old.
Yeah, 90210.
That too.
Yeah,
Luke Perry. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Rest in peace.
Right.
Yes. Oh, and then we get another scene. Christina's now that she's doing laundry, and the school is letting her go on this work scholarship program, I guess, because Joan says money's tight.
Yep. And she said she had to let go of Helga.
Yes, she let go of Helga. She lost her contract at Warner Brothers at this point, because now that's who she's with.
Yep. Because it wasn't and then the other thing to mention too is like how Christina at the school was. We see that obviously she's kind of gained some attention from boys, because there's one boy that's kind of flirting with her a little bit. Because that scene,
that's
Chad
definitely coming up. Yeah, that's definitely.
Chad loved this scene that was coming up with that one, where she's like, the monologue.
Like,
the monologue.
I understand.
Yeah.
And she did that whole monologue, and then she sat down, and he's like flinging her sock in her face, and she's like, "Stop!" And then the girl sat beside him, Vera. was like, yeah, stop it.
It was great.
Oh, yeah. So then we get a quick scene of Christina going in Joan's room, finding her passed out because she's drunk. She thinks she's in trouble. Like, she's worried about her.
This would piss me off, actually, I think, is if I was Christina. Because we find out that she's drunk, but then we look around and it's like, wait, she's spending exorbitant a lot of money. Where'd she get this and this and this? And she's like,
oh, she's bought it a couple days ago.
Yeah.
Spending money when she's saying she doesn't have it and all this. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, but then you're forcing your daughter to go
work her way through school.
Yeah, through the work program. Crazy. And especially when she's got that big old house and it's like, oh, maybe you could slim down a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. You got that big
old
house. Yeah.
She can make a big lot of money by selling that house.
So then you get your making out scene with the boy in the horse stable here.
Oh yeah, I told Chad, I was like, oh, isn't that nice? Her first kiss in the horse stable.
Then we get her in with...
always reminds me of my first kiss.
Oh, and then we get her, I guess, with the dean of the school, I guess you would call it, whatever, giving her 1 month probation.
The headmistress of the school.
And my God, that camera shot too, by the way, when they were making out and she was on top of him and he like had her dress kind of lifted up. I'm like, okay, we're seeing some panties and stockings here. And she's like wearing some sexy stockings or something. Like we had to get that shot in or something. That was just kind of weird at first. And I'm like, but she's a teenager. What's she doing wearing that?
Yeah.
Anyway, I digress.
Teenager at that, but yes, she gets 1 month probation, but of course Joan flips out and just says, "You know what? She's done. She's not going here anymore." And pulls her completely out of the school.
Oh my gosh, she was so crazy with that principal.
You mean the headmistress?
Yes, the head Mrs. Chadwick.
Who?
Yes, Mrs. Chadwick.
That's with an impeccable reputation.
Oh man, because notice too when Joan is about to walk out of her room, she has to get the last word.
That's true.
And she said something too, like
about the school's impeccable reputation.
Yeah. I was like, of course Joan would do that.
Oh, then we get them driving, and of course she's drinking, and she's
her. This is my favorite scene. This is probably one of my favorite scenes.
This is a good scene because Christina's like, "There's a liquor store up on the right," and Joan. Well, I'll let you deliver the line, Chris, because you got it. I know you want to say it.
I should have known you would know where to find the booze. Or I'm sorry, I should have known you where you'd find the boys and the booze. I was like, damn, she's gonna call her own daughter a slut.
Yep.
And then the pot calling the kettle black.
That's true.
Because Joan was an alcoholic and she
kind
slept
of
her way through
nymphomaniac.
her career, but
she kind of was.
Yeah, seems like it.
But still.
But now they're back at the house. And Christina asked the question that really you kind of wonder the whole time. Why did you even adopt me? You never loved me.
Before we do that, there's a reporter at the house.
Barbara.
Yeah, there's a reporter at the house who's making an article right there. And then she tells, because this is what triggers it at, she tells that reporter that Christina got expelled. And that's when Christina was like, that's a lie.
And it's funny because right before that, when they arrive at the house, she tells, I don't want any trouble out of you. You keep your mouth shut. And of course, Joan goes in there, tells a lie about Christina.
Yep.
And Christina calls her out in front of the reporter. And that's when Joan's like, oh, no, she didn't.
Yep.
Let me go speak to you in the other room, Christina.
Yeah. Chad's like, boy, she looked like she got, because the shoulder pads.
The shoulder pads. I was
made
like,
her look like her shoulders.
They make you look angry, sir. Like, take those out.
And then they go to the other room and she's like, why must you treat me like this or something like that? She's like, why did you adopt me?
I'm entitled to.
It's like, why did you adopt me? Because I wanted a child. And she's like,
bullshit. You wanted me for fucking attention.
Yep.
Is this the scene where she says, "I'm not one of your fans"?
Yes.
Okay.
This one. But yeah, it's a good scene, good build up. Basically, kind of like taunts Christina's like, well, maybe I did it for publicity, and Christina's like, oh, okay, maybe the truth. But then that's when Joan's like, Christina, you know that's not true. She's like, well, maybe just a little.
Or maybe just a little.
And then that's where it evolves into, why can't you give me the respect that I'm entitled to? Like any fan,
like any stranger. And it's, I'm not one of your
Your
fans.
Because I am not one of your fans!
And then she just like loses it and chokes the shit out of her,
Yeah.
tackles her down, starts banging her head against the floor. And Christina can't fight. I have to say, Christina sucks at fighting. Like, I'm sitting there, I'm like, scratch your eyes, grab her tits and twist it or something.
Yep.
Like, do something. She's just wait until it's over.
But you know, thank God for Carol
she's
Ann
kinda
and
Barbara
Barbara
Showing
showing
bad
up
sex
when they did.
and bad fights. Yes. Yeah.
Because I did too, like when Barbara
I guess
shows
you
up,
just
she's like,
took your
Barbara,
advice.
please.
Barbara,
Yeah.
please,
If you
please,
need-
Barbara.
yeah, she's like, if you need anything, ask Carol Ann.
Because Barbara knew what was about to go down.
Oh, yeah.
Barbara knew that Joan was a hothead.
She was going to be like, she was doing what Carol Ann should have done. Try to
De-escalate.
de-escalate. Try to de-escalate. Thank you. That's the perfect word.
But I think this also showed you, too, that there is no de-escalating fucking
well,
Joan.
yeah, when
Like,
she sees red, she sees red.
the only way to de-escalate her is
Oh,
to shoot a dart
But then
into her
that goes back
backside.
to the same point, too, where when she's pulled off and then she screams and then she like backs off and then she's like crying and sobbing again. Like, oh shit, what did I do?
Poor dear
Yeah.
had a spell.
And you might be wrong to that thing. She blacks out during these spells she has and then comes back to reality. I don't know. Alright, now we get a quick shot. Christina going to this, I guess, nunnery? I guess this is some kind of...
Yeah, it's like a
There
well,
would
we'll
be
just
no
call it like, I don't know,
privileges.
Catholic school
Right.
or something. We'll call it that. You know, that's but
I'm
basically,
telling you, man, Catholic school will fuck you up. I'm just putting that out there.
but she's put under the most strictest terms of discipline. You know, like she can't get any mail in or out, phone calls in or out. She can't leave the premises. God, what else could she not do? Like, it was just crazy. Like
She can't take a shit
Yeah, pretty
without
much.
feeling guilty about it.
pretty much. And all she was told right there is like, you've made a lot of sins. You've done this. It's all your fault because this is what your mother.
I mean, that's
and they believe
Catholic
what the
for
mother
you.
says.
That's what they do.
Now we're cutting to...
Then
heard her talk about her 2 divorces earlier, and apparently there was a third one somewhere in here that we never see, because now we're seeing her going to her 4th and final marriage, Alfred Still. And I want to make sure I got it. This is where Christina's 15 years old at this point. It's 1955.
okay, yeah. Because you know what, I kept thinking maybe this was early '60s, but that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I think their marriage went into
59.
maybe the
He
60s.
died in 59.
Okay.
Yeah, that's when he passed.
Okay.
When we get to there, that was a little strange the way they framed it in this movie, but we'll get there in a minute. As first we see Christina, she's leaving this nunnery, convent, Christian Catholic school, whatever it is she's in.
Mhm.
And she's calling John on the phone. And she's like, well, what do I call him? And she's like, well, he's your father. And I'm like, I'm 15. I'm not going home and calling this strange man. And she goes home, hi, Daddy. And I'm like, bullshit. There ain't no way in hell you're getting me to say that at that age.
Well, you know what? I bet part of that was, let me just be good, because if I don't be good, then she's going to get pissed off. If I don't do what Mommy tells me to do to address him, she's going to get pissed off.
You're probably right. I would agree with that.
It's probably more so like, let me avoid the fighting. Any confrontation, let me avoid it. Because I kind of noticed at this point, she seems a little more docile. Christina does.
Yeah.
She's not as challenging.
Tell you, man, the Catholic school
To her
broke her.
mom. Yeah, it really did. Like, I think she just kind of knew, like, there's no point at this time. There's nothing I can do to challenge her. She's going to win somehow, some way. She's going to get her way.
Now we get the conversation between them. We learn that Christina is now she's trying to become an actress, and she's doing some acting and interviewing during the day and working at night. And she does this cardinal sin here and asks Joan for money, which you're not going to ask Joan Crawford for money. So
Oh, by the way, this is a famous scene too.
Oh.
Well, at least a famous quote. You know, where they're remodeling the apartment that they're building there in New York. And then she's the designer guy. He wants to put a window where the wall is, but he's like, but there's a bitch bearing wall in the way. And he's like, so I don't know what to do. She's like, I tell you what to do. You tear down that bitch of a bearing wall and put a window where it is supposed to be. And Josh, you could probably get a quote from that to put in there.
I probably can find that clip. You're right.
I'll tell you what to do. Tear down that bitch of a bearing wall and put a window where it ought to be.
Of course, yeah. Joan's not going to give her money. I can't remember exactly what she says, but we do get that Alfred actually gives her money outside. He wants to help out, so he's at least trying to be active.
He's a sweet guy.
Yeah, he seems like a good guy. And then it cuts back to more of Joan and Alfred arguing over how money's being spent. And I read that Christina kind of took it as she thinks he married her thinking she was a star and he had money, and she married him thinking he was big in the Pepsi, that he had money. And neither one of them were like rich by any means at the time that they were doing. That's how Christina took it.
Okay, that's interesting. Because you know what? I thought maybe, if anything, he probably did have a little bit more, just because wasn't he like president or executive or something like that?
He was an executive of Pepsi Cola, but I know later on after he dies, they talked about how he was in debt because he had to borrow against stocks in the company or something.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
in order to pay for their debts.
Well, I mean, look at what she was doing with that, just the building alone in the apartment.
Mm-hmm. She wasn't caring about it. For her, money was no object.
No, and I like what, of course, her thing was like, oh, well, I'm building this for you. And it's like, no, you're building this for you.
Mm-hmm. Overspending everywhere.
It's like, he's not the one sitting there going, tear down a bitch of a bearing wall to put a window there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But this is what I was talking about Framework, because they have this argument about the money and spending it. And then it cuts and Alfred's dead. And I'm like, what the hell happened here? Like, it makes it seem like she got so angry she lost it. That's obviously not what happened. But it's just...
She lost it in murder.
Yeah, it's like it framed it weird to show this argument and then cut to her in this boardroom with these other executives.
Which is another famous scene.
And we find out that Alfred is dead. And I'm like, this was a jump.
Yeah.
This was a jump out of nowhere. But I think part of this is based off Christina's memoirs, and maybe she just went out of her life for a few years. Yeah. So she doesn't, know everything that went on. Because at this point, we're in 1959, because that's when he passed away.
Yeah. Well, and then at this time, too, they were living separately. So it wasn't like she was going to be there living 24/7, knowing how they operated and stuff like that. At least their relationship.
Right. And like you said, Chris, this is a famous scene, because I do like this line, because they're trying to basically tell her she's not going to be on the board anymore. And I can't remember the whole quote, but I think the part you're talking about is the "Don't fuck with me, fellas."
Yeah, because she's like,
this isn't my first rodeo.
Yeah, she's like, I own 59% of this company or something like that.
Yeah.
Because she had like a more stake into it than some of the others.
Also had publicity power over the company. Like because
she was like, shoot, you guys send me out, and I can go out there and say Pepsi is bad.
Hard feelings. You don't know what hard feelings are until I come out publicly against your product, and you'll see how much you sell.
Please, Miss Crawford. It's hardly necessary to make threats you surely don't mean.
Don't fuck with me, fellas! This ain't my first time at the rodeo. You forget the press I delivered to Pepsi was my power. I can use it any way I want. It's a sword. It cuts both ways.
Which is pretty much what she told them. She's like, well, I could give you guys bad publicity if you want. Or you can keep me on, because this was her way of still making money, or at least to make a little bit of money. And she did. She ended up becoming, for pretty much the rest of her career at that point, like the Pepsi queen. She like an ambassador, and she actually, on her future projects, her acting projects, she had Pepsi machines or something like that for like the crew and stuff like that to drink on and stuff. And I think even maybe try to have Pepsi in the movies.
I'm not sure about that. But I wouldn't doubt it. I know they kind of say that after this point, once Alfred died, is when she kind of became a recluse, they say, which is why, at least in this next part, I know Christina must have lost contact, because this next part is kind of, we're wrapping it up here. We get
Yeah.
Joan going to her house, and she's giving her these pearls that Alfred gave her.
Which was surprising.
Exactly. I mean, so surprising. Christina cries because it's like the first real sentimental thing she's ever done for her, really, if you think about it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 'cause especially something that big.
Yeah.
Like, you're giving me something that's
worth
really special.
Worth a lot of money.
And worth a lot of money on top of that, yeah. Which makes me wonder if Christina ever just hawked those pearls.
I don't know. I can't answer that question, but then we cut.
If she got them in real life, I don't know.
Right. Yeah. That's true. That's fair.
Chris asking the important questions that Joy Behar should have asked her
Christina?
on Larry King's show.
Oh. That's right.
Then we cut to a scene in Joan's kitchen, and she's signing autographs again, but she's like, "Is it 4:00 yet?" And it's already past 4. She's like, "I told you to turn on the TV at 4 every day." Because Christina's now on, I guess it's a soap opera, right?
Soap opera.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you
Soap
helpless
opera.
witch. Turn on the TV yourself. It's not that hard.
It's really not. It's not that difficult to turn on the
Well,
TV.
you know, she's busy signing autographs.
Backbreaking work.
Well, for her hand it is, because that means she has to turn the knob.
That's true. Her precious hands that she has to keep
She has to
young
watch her
and
fingers.
supple and moisturized.
All right, Chris, maybe you'll be able to shed some light on this, because I didn't look up and I don't know what was going on. But we cut to Christina at her own house eating, and she's having pains, and we know that she goes in the hospital. Do you know why she goes in the hospital? Like, what is this?
Yeah, because
appendicitis.
No, it wasn't an appendicitis. It was ovarian tumor.
Oh,
That's what it was. It was benign. That's what she tells the producer of the show who shows up.
All right. And Joan does one of the most devious things you can do in this situation.
Oh my God. This is because she tells that producer, like, you know, is this going to affect Christina's job, you know, with her being out? She's like, oh, well, how long is she planning to be out? Oh, well, the doctor doesn't know just yet, but how about I give you a call and we'll talk about it. And of course, we see Christina in bed. And then what do we see, Josh?
Joan is acting in the same role as a 28-year-old actress, they say. She's still playing the same character at her age.
Because I love what happened here, because the nurse is like, don't you want to see your show? She's like, why? To see how well they'll do without me? And she's like, no, because your mother is on.
You see,
she's taking your role while you're recuperating. And she's like, what? That's impossible.
I'm 28 years
My
old.
role is 28 years old.
and they turn on the TV and you see Joan Crawford's old ass on there. You're like, what the
With
fuck?
this young husband and talking about their marriage coming up, and then she's been like, well, and then she even like mentioned something about like her mom, like the character, like, oh well, I talked to Mama on the phone. So I'm like, is she like 107 years old or something?
Oh, and then we get this next scene. I don't know. Is it some kind of Lifetime Achievement Award? I didn't catch what award this was she's receiving. Christina's accepting the award.
It pretty much is.
Yeah.
It pretty much. They didn't say like specifically what it was, but yeah, it's life achievement essentially.
Of course, Christina says, "Congratulations, I love you, Mommie Dearest." Might have been,
which seemed like an actual.
I was gonna say, might have been the first time she really
moment.
meant it. Like it did come across that way. I agree with that. And we see Joan crying in the bed, and of course that leads to the next part, which is Joan is now dead. So this is obviously 1977, and Christina's talking to her in the casket, and then we get the reading of the will, which, as one last thing, I guess Joan wanted to stick it to her children one last time and excluded them from her will. Like, damn.
For reasons they know.
Oh yeah,
for reasons they know.
And it is funny because Christopher makes the statement of, well, Mom
Well, I guess
always
she
did
gets
get
the
the
last
last word. And Christina responds with, or does she? Which I think they put that line in because they ended up going back through court and they actually did get part of Joan's estate.
Yeah, because Chad was reading up on that. And what did you find that, like, actually the two twins originally end up getting?
Yeah, Cindy and Kathy got about $77.5 thousand each.
Because she only had a $2 million.
She had like a $2 million estate, but she only gave them like $77.5 thousand each. And then Christopher and Christina were given nothing, but they ended up going through court and they ended up getting like a $55,000 settlement out of it. But the rest of Joan's money ended up going to charities and stuff. But I was telling Chris, I was like, well, you know what? I'm like, Christina probably got the last laugh because she's probably made way more money off of her book and the movies and shit than she ever would have gotten from her mother.
Mom. Yep, exactly. Because I mean, $2 million. That's not a whole lot for considering her as legendary as her career is.
We have to remember this was also in the 70s. That was a lot of money back in the 70s.
Well, yeah, that's a lot of money in the 70s.
In today's world, yeah, you're like, oh, 2 million, what?
But you almost think that she probably would have had a lot more in some respect. You know, but,
true, and she was a big spender, so she probably would have had a lot more.
But that's pretty crazy to think of. But yeah, so I almost kind of took when she's like, well, did she? As her way of finally knowing, you know, well, wait a minute, I'm going to tell the truth. I'm going to write this book.
Well, and you know what? There's speculation about that because this book literally comes out the year after she passes, which is kind of fast to write a book. So there's speculation that Joan caught wind that she was writing this book ahead of time and decided to leave her out of the will because of that. She found out she was writing this. Because apparently Christina had been writing just this stuff down and showing it to her friends with never real intent of publishing it. And then I guess somebody ended up seeing it somehow and said, no, this would be good. Because this would be it's a pretty big book to write if she dies one year and it's out the next year.
Yeah.
And this movie's made within 4 years after that. I mean, it's a quick
turnaround.
turnaround.
Because I mean, I know like in traditional publishing methods, like from the time you submit a manuscript and it's accepted to the time that it's printed and hits the shelves, it takes about a year.
Yeah.
So yeah, the book would have had to been written before Joan died in order for it to come out within that time frame.
Well, that's some really good speculation because given the circle they could have been in, someone probably did give Joan a heads up and said like, hey, this is what Christina has written and probably could publish it. And I bet Joan was just like, well, you know what? I'm going to get the last word here. Just like she would normally do. She always got the last word in everything she said.
All right. Before we move on to our ratings, guys, let's see what our listeners had to say about Mommie Dearest. And Chris, I don't know. I know sometimes you like to look ahead, but if you haven't, there was a lot. There was a lot said about this movie, so you'll be happy to hear that.
Awesome. Okay, bring it on. Let's hear what we got.
Here we go with the listener's comment.
Mail, motherfucker!
All right. Let's kick it off with the Cult Film Companion, because I know you wouldn't have seen this, because this came in a chat. He starts off by saying, I saw this movie in an orphanage. That's a level of awkwardness that few have experienced.
Okay. Oh, man.
Hold on. I was like, oh, wow, I couldn't believe it. And then he's like, it's not true, but feel free to use it. And he put a bunch of Wallace Shawn gifs from Princess Bride laughing about it. I was like, really, dude? Really?
Damn, Josh, you had me there because I thought that was real. I was going to be like, ooh, that is bad.
He did come back to say, but seriously, Faye Dunaway is truly terrifying in this movie. She makes wire hangers something to be feared. And how the hell is this rated PG? Which, we talked about that. To which I just responded, the 80s were just different. The 80s were just different.
Well, damn, what was PG-13? What, came like mid-80s just about?
I think so. It was one, I know one of the Indiana Jones movie was a big catalyst for it.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't remember which one exactly. All right, so let's see what else we have. We have, this is a new one, so it's a weird name. Twadex. Twadex, the world according to Xander, says, but the question now is, no more wire hangers? Or should we save a few and a Hoover just in case the GOP have all the back alleys policed? Ooh. Be sure to highlight a woman's right to her body autonomy. PSA.
Damn. Okay, that was
got
good.
A point there.
I like that. That's a good point.
Ebony from the Gruesome Twosome podcast says, such a sad and disturbing film. Brilliantly made, but my God, it is sad.
Well, I can see that point too. It is horrible. It's horrible treatment.
It is. Vern from Cinema Recall says, this movie is a lot more effed up than I was led to believe. Everyone said that this movie is terrible and cheesy, but it is more disturbing moments than a Gaspar Noé film.
Yeah, it's under. I think for some people they underestimate the film too. I think that's even the initial reaction from some critics is I think that a lot of people underestimated this film a little bit. Like, yeah, there are some things that are definitely over the top, but there's really a lot of also good things in this movie too. So, yeah.
The Wheel of Horror podcast, this is specifically Justin from them, said, never heard of it. I was like, really? And even Ebony responded, is this sarcasm? Like, I not seeing it's one thing, but not hearing of it, that is kind of surprising that you never heard of the movie.
Yeah, especially kind of like within that, if you're a big film lover and have seen maybe a lot of cult classics, it's one that you probably should have heard about or at least have already seen it at some point. Some point you come across it.
Right. The Talking Shiterature podcast, literature and shit, talking shit. In case you didn't get that right, Talking Shit. I love that name. It's a great name. Talking Shiterature podcast says, don't even own wire hangers because of this movie. My mother-in-law signed her son's birthday cards, Mommie Dearest, and confirmed all of my suspicions.
You know what? Same. I do not have wire hangers either.
Me either.
Apparently, it's not good either for your clothes.
That is what they say. They say. In fact, we didn't bring it up, but that's part of what she says. You have $300 dress on a wire hanger.
Yeah, well, it creases the shoulders and stuff. Yeah.
Which, by the way, I looked that up just to see. $300 for a dress back then would be like paying $4,500 for a dress today. So it's definitely extreme, or at least in her time, I guess.
Yeah,
not
that's a lot of money.
Cheap Seat Review says, whenever I give my mom a Mother's Day card, I dress it to Mommie Dearest. LOL. So I don't know if he's joking or not. He might be. He's based.
I think I've done that before with mom, like on a
go.
Mother's Day card.
He's based in Charlotte, so it's another podcast right
Hey,
Charlotte.
Charlottean, what's up?
The 10 Cent Takes, which is a comic book podcast, says, weirdly, I think Riverdale did a comic book homage to this movie. I can't remember details, though. Don't know. Didn't even know Riverdale had a comic, honestly. So I know the show, but
I didn't even know they did a parody. But now that makes me kind of interested to see what they would have done.
Right. Pete from Middle Class Film Class says the movie spawned one of the greatest unhinged mom quotes ever. No wire hangers ever, and has been sampled on many pop culture songs. The best one, in my opinion, is "Blue" by Jay-Z. Useless Casey says, I watched this movie so much as a kid. I am still terrified of wire hangers. To which Lara Clark responded, I have never owned a wire hanger as an adult. Never will. I also remember her washing her face in scalding hot water, then putting ice cold water, like ice, in the water to keep her skin youthful. She was crazy.
Yeah.
And then,
well, she definitely had that routine, man.
And then Casey responded to her saying, anytime I talk to my mom, I always randomly burst out the line, I'm not one of your fans. Oh, and
I should do that.
And I posted the classic, the makeup poster for this movie that has just the makeup of Joan's eyes and lips and stuff for the poster.
Oh, yeah.
And Gordo responded, wow, I thought for sure that was Amy Poehler up there. Yes. My buddy Peter from Peter Loves Movies, Peter Bukowski, he says, it's a camp classic and is ubiquitous in gay male culture. When drag queens do Crawford, they are doing Dunaway as Crawford, which I talked about. I think of it. True. That's how I think Crawford in my mind. He says, years of it being camp makes it nearly impossible to judge on its own merits. Dunaway's work is so savage and over the top, she becomes a movie monster.
Yeah, that's really good. That's a really good point, yeah.
Nick from Film Shake says, my main experience with this movie is that when I was laughing really hard at the no wire hangers moment in Diary of a Mad Black Woman like 17 years ago, someone told me, they just took that from Mommie Dearest. He still needs to watch it. He hasn't watched it yet. He hasn't watched Mommie Dearest. He saw the moment, and I haven't seen Diary of a Mad Black Woman, so I didn't know that they did that in that movie.
I don't even remember. I saw it many years ago as well, and I don't even remember that. But shoot. Yeah, if you haven't seen Mommie Dearest, you need to check it out.
My buddy Carlo, who I'll just go ahead and plug this real quick. I was recently on Carlo's podcast talking about Friday the 13th, so check out the movie wherever you go. He says he doesn't think he's seen this movie, so Carlo, I do suggest you check it out. It's definitely worth a watch in your lifetime. It's definitely one I think you need to see.
Especially when it's such a pop culture reference in so many ways.
Right.
If you see it, you'll know it, and you'll get all the references.
My friend Jen S. says, if I was homesick from school and this was on HBO, it was like hitting a walk-off home run. This was a staple for us as kids. I was a 12-year-old in 1986, terrified of Joan Crawford. I think of the movie to this day when I get wire hangers back from the dry cleaner.
Well, she's got a good point, because I remember it playing on the movie channels when I was growing up too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think if I didn't see it there on my own, I would have seen it with you guys. I either saw it on HBO or watched it with you two. Who knows? I don't remember my first time seeing this, so I'm not sure.
No, understandable. Because it feels like it was on a lot, so yeah.
To which Brooke responded to Jen saying, wire hangers took a serious hit from this movie. I cannot have them in my house, ever. To which Pete from Middle Class Film Class responded to her saying, to be fair, wire hangers are a cry for help. They're temporary at best. Be better than wire hangers.
Good point. I agree.
And Jen responded to Brooke by saying about the wire hangers taking a hit, says, no kidding, but cold cream sales skyrocketed, and put a picture of Faye Dunaway and the cream during the wire hanger scene. So, yeah.
Yes, mommy, what?
Yeah. All right, so that's everything. Thanks, everybody. That was a lot of comments to get through, so I like being able to get a lot of participation in that. A lot of people had thoughts about Mommie Dearest, so good job, Chris, once again. And before we get to the business down, let's give our ratings. So, Chad, I'll let you kick us off this week.
I'm going to give it 4 out of 5 wire hangers. I love the production design of it. It's just one of those movies that, I saw when I was a kid. It's just stuck with me, so I think there's a lot of that sentimental value for it. Yeah, it's a fun movie to watch in a weird way.
Yeah. And I think it's like it's maybe 2 hours long, but at the same time it doesn't necessarily feel like that either to me.
Yeah.
Chris, let's see,
because you're still engaged.
Giving it a 5, Chris? Is it a 5-star for you?
I'm giving it, actually I'm also going to give it like maybe 4. I want to say maybe 4 wire hangers for right now. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, and as much as I said about this and how the actress's age confused me and all that stuff, this is still a well-made movie. It's still a disturbing movie at time. I still can have fun with this movie, especially now knowing the camp. And I'm with you. This for me is 4 wire hangers out of 5. Absolutely.
Yay, Josh enjoyed it.
I mean, it's not my first time watching it, so that was one thing. I had seen this.
I bet this is probably been a long time since you've seen it.
You know what? It probably been since the 90s since I'd seen this. So you're probably right.
Oh, wow.
I don't think I've watched it this century until this viewing, so probably right on that.
Well, it finally was it this year or late last year? It finally had its first Blu-ray release.
Oh wow.
And updated, looks really nice. So if you guys ever want a good physical copy of it, it's out there. It's really good. Definitely worth it.
There you go.
And it comes with a digital copy.
Oh, nice. There you go. Wait, do you have a digital copy of this?
We do. Yeah.
Should have checked your account, but okay.
It's on my Apple account.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right, now it's time to get the business for next month, and we have a special surprise because we're going to be back to doing 2 episodes next month. So we're going to be putting 2 choices per person on the poll. So we're going to be tackling, we covered Mother's Day, so we're going to do something for the papas out there. Don't want to let them go. Leave them.
Big Papa. All right, Notorious, CHRIS.
Yeah. And June, we're going to lean into Pride Month, and we're all going to have Pride picks. So, Chris, you're going to kick us off. I think you'll give us your Father's Day pick first. And then we'll go around, and then we'll do the Pride pick second. But you're gonna vote on the person, Chad, Chris, or Josh, on who you think has the best picks. I'll be sure to put a poll up the day after this is out. I'll list each movie we got ours picked. You guys vote and let us know what we'll be talking about next month. All right, Chris, I was giving you time. Go ahead.
No, sure. So for Father's Day, I decided to go with a 90s comedy and one that I think has a lot of fathers to be with their concerns and worries and stuff like that. So I went with the 1995 movie 9 Months. with Hugh Grant and Robin Williams and Julianne Moore.
Oh wow! I didn't even know Robin Williams was in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen it, so okay. Chad, let's see what
You never.
I've never watched it. I remember you guys talking about it.
You'd be in for a treat.
Yeah. It's a good movie. It's really fun.
All right, Chad. What's your father's pick?
Yeah, my Father's Day pick is a movie I've never seen before, which I know is probably blasphemy for a lot of people. It's The Road.
With Viggo Mortensen?
With Viggo Mortensen in it, yeah.
Nice. I haven't seen that either, actually.
Same.
Definitely be an interesting one. All right, so Chad, you talk about blasphemy. I'm going to pick a movie I haven't seen. And I don't know if it's a movie I like because it's not the kind of movie I typically watch. But as a father, seeing your daughter get married is a very pivotal time of your life. So I'm going to go back to Steve Martin in Father of the Bride.
I debated on that one.
That was one Chris talked about too.
Or Chris, I thought about leaning into the horror and going with the stepfather. But I was
yeah. I
was like, nah.
Just like, nope, I'm gonna do a left turn here.
Yep.
For real.
Yep.
No, that's cool. I like that idea too. So I like it. Yeah. Good choice.
All right, so now we'll go right back around the table and go with some pride picks. So I'm juggling between some. So based on what you guys say is where my pick will land.
Well, in that case, we'll start with Chad. What'd you pick, Chad?
This can also be like a two for one, a Father's Day and like a Pride movie. I'm going with The Birdcage with Robin Williams and Nathan Lane.
One I have not seen. One I was gonna try. I haven't seen it.
You never seen it?
You've never watched it? Oh my god, that movie is magical.
Oh, it's great.
That movie is so magical.
Boy, we got something to show Josh.
Uh-oh. Josh, do you have a backup? I can pick another one.
I do.
Go with I almost picked Room in Rome. Remember that movie, Chris, with the two ladies that are in that hotel room and they do that one movie. You're like, is she gonna powerbomb her? I almost picked Room in Rome.
If any of you who have seen that movie, you probably know what I'm talking about. What Chat was referring to. But
Birdcage, I mean, that's just I was having to think like, oh, that kind of fits in with the whole Father's Day theme too.
That's a good one too.
So
okay, I didn't even know that it fit that. But yeah, that is what I was thinking about.
Well, you know what I picked out for mine?
Go ahead, Chris. Let's see.
I'm going to try it again. Adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert.
Oh no! Do you have a tertiary backup?
Well, I have one. I hope people will give this movie a chance. I haven't seen this movie either. It is a more recent movie. It does lean into Had I Gone with a Stepfather. This is also a horror movie. This movie is called Knife Plus Heart. I think it's a French film. But from everything I've heard, it does lean into this. Like, it definitely fits the theme. So,
yeah.
So there we go. I'm going to go with that. So, Chris, we'll go round the table, tell your two choices one more time to remind everyone.
Sure. So I'm doing 9 Months and The Adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert.
I'm doing The Road and The Birdcage.
All right. My choices will be Father of the Bride and Knife Plus Heart. So if you guys are listening to this day it comes out, just make sure you head over to the Twitter at YNF Movie Pod. Vote on that poll. I'll have it up there. Want to get some votes in? Want to hear what you guys think? And maybe I can win one this time. I don't know though. I felt good about Father of the Bride paired with The Birdcage. I'm not gonna lie. I felt good about that pairing.
That would be a good pairing. Yeah.
Apparently, we're all.
We could switch it around. I could do Father of the Bride, and you could take The Road and put that and be like a horror thing for you.
Nope, we're gonna stick with our picks, and who wins wins, Chad. That's how we're gonna do it.
Okay.
Well, Chad, you may win this one. You never know.
Doubt it. I don't have a good track record on these things. I think people are like, "Oh God, that Chad
well,
has
can we acknowledge
dubious
for one,
taste in films."
That you and Josh, y'all's choice was going back and forth, really up to the last minute. You guys kept going back and forth with this like 1% difference.
What poll? This last poll?
Yeah,
Oh,
because it
who
was.
cares? We were fighting for 20% because you already had 60 of it. That didn't matter.
Well, yeah, but what I'm saying is that obviously those two choices were kind of going neck and neck
After they'd been obliterated, which
okay, so he got obliterated, but still, the point is there was still a bit of a battle between the other two movies.
all right, let's get out of here, guys. Give your social. Let's get out of here.
All right. IG and the Tweety Box Green Screen Grin.
And you can catch me on Instagram at xtopher of Oz, and then on Twitter at CBC Monkey. And then Letterbox, just find me through Chad and Josh.
Yeah, I'm also on the Letterbox too at Green Screen Grin. Everything's the same with me.
As I said, Twitter and Instagram, YNF Movie Pod, the easiest thing to do. linktr.ee/YNF Movie Pod. It'll have Twitter, Instagram, podcast platforms, YouTube, my Letterboxd if you want that. So yeah, that's the easiest way. And as for next week, I will be joined by the director of the documentary Valerie, about Valerie Perrine. Stacey Souther will be joining the show, and we will be talking about Back to the Future. So until then, you guys take care, and I will talk to you next time.